From body modifications to bizarre rituals, human history is full of strange cultural practices that might just make your jaw drop. Some of these practices are so extreme, they'll leave you questioning how far people will go for tradition, belief, or even beauty. Today, we're diving into some of the craziest cultural practices that will definitely shock you. Let's get started. 1. Footbinding China. One of the most gruesome and disturbing cultural practices in history comes from China. For over 1,000 years, the practice of footbinding was a common tradition among Chinese women, especially among the wealthy. The process was initiated when girls were as young as 4 or 5 years old. The feet were tightly bound with cloth to stunt their growth, essentially breaking and reshaping the bones into a small, pointed shape known as the lotus foot. The ideal foot was about 3 inches long. Footbinding caused extreme pain and deformation, and many women experienced lifelong disability, with some even losing their toes completely. Why? Well, small feet were considered a mark of beauty and status in ancient China, and the practice was thought to make women more marriageable. Women with bound feet were often viewed as more feminine and refined. While the practice officially ended in the early 20th century, footbinding remains a shocking reminder of the extreme lengths people will go to in the name of beauty and tradition. 2. The human torso tattooing, the Mokele-Mbembe tribe, Congo. Imagine getting tattooed in a way that no modern tattoo artist would dare attempt today. The Mokele-Mbembe tribe of the Congo still practices a form of tattooing that involves marking the skin with intense and often brutal designs across the torso. While tattoos today are often symbols of style, individuality, or culture, the Mokele-Mbembe see them as symbols of strength and spiritual protection. What makes this practice particularly extreme is that the tattooing process doesn't involve needles as we know them. Instead, they use sharp tools, like bone or metal rods, which are heated in fire before being pressed into the skin. The pain is excruciating, and the process is incredibly invasive, often taking days to finish. Not only does the process leave permanent scars, but it's meant to transform the individual and test their pain tolerance. If you can endure the harsh conditions of tattooing, you're considered spiritually powerful, and your pain becomes a symbol of your resilience. While modern tattooing has replaced this brutal practice in most parts of the world, it still persists in some remote communities. 3. The skull elongation, the Javaro people, Ecuador, and Peru. Next, we travel to the Javaro people, an indigenous group from the Amazon rainforest in Ecuador and Peru. For centuries, they practiced the art of skull elongation, a practice where babies' heads were intentionally deformed to form an elongated shape, resembling a cone or elongated dome. This wasn't something done naturally, though. The practice involved binding the baby's head with tight cloth or wood as soon as they were born. Over time, the skull would naturally stretch and deform into the shape that was considered beautiful and a sign of strength. The Javaro believed that having an elongated skull was a sign of social status and gave individuals higher standing within their communities. But there's more. This practice wasn't just a physical alteration. It was believed that the elongated skulls had spiritual significance, granting individuals more power and intelligence. While this practice has long been abandoned, it's still a fascinating and gruesome example of how far certain cultures will go to shape their ideals of beauty and power. 4. The firewalking rituals, various cultures. Firewalking is another extreme ritual that has been practiced by cultures around the world for centuries. From Hindu festivals in India to the Fijian culture, firewalking involves walking barefoot across a path of hot coals or burning embers, sometimes for hundreds of feet. The reasoning behind this practice is rooted in spiritual purification, endurance, and the belief that by walking across fire, individuals can show their devotion to their gods or demonstrate strength. Participants often go into a meditative trance, with some cultures believing that walking barefoot across the flames can heal the body and remove evil spirits. While it seems like an activity that would be impossible to survive, participants often make it across the fire unscathed due to the science of heat conduction and the preparation of the coals. But that doesn't take away from how extreme and dangerous this ritual still is in many cultures today. Even if the risks are reduced, it's still a mind-boggling practice to witness. 5. The custom of female genital mutilation, FGM, Africa, Middle East, Asia. Perhaps one of the most disturbing and gruesome cultural practices still practiced today is female genital mutilation, FGM. This practice involves the partial or complete removal of a girl's external genitalia for non-medical reasons, typically in young girls before puberty. It is practiced in many African, Middle Eastern, and Asian communities, often rooted in traditions and misguided notions of purity and modesty. FGM is typically carried out in unsanitary conditions without any form of anesthesia, often causing extreme pain, infection, and long-term health complications like chronic infections, childbirth complications, and psychological trauma. The practice, in some areas, is enforced through cultural pressures and the belief that it makes a woman more desirable for marriage or accepted by her community. The practice has faced growing opposition in recent decades, with the World Health Organization, WHO, and United Nations, UN, working to end it. But unfortunately, millions of girls still undergo this brutal procedure. The ongoing battle against FGM sheds light on how cultural practices can often override basic human rights. 6. The Maasai lion hunt, Kenya, and Tanzania. The Maasai people of Kenya and Tanzania have historically practiced the lion hunt as a rite of passage for young men. This practice, which has been carried out for centuries, involves a Maasai warrior venturing out into the wilderness to kill a lion using only traditional weapons, like a spear. The hunt is a symbol of bravery, strength, and courage. It's seen as a test of masculinity and a way for young Maasai men to prove their worth to the community. While lion hunting is now illegal in many regions due to conservation efforts and concerns about the endangered lion population, it remains an important part of the Maasai culture. The gruesome nature of the hunt comes from the violence and danger of facing off with a wild animal, using only rudimentary weapons. But it also highlights the Maasai's deep connection to their land, their spiritual beliefs, and their traditional way of life. Although the practice has slowed, some Maasai still honor the ritual despite the dangers and the shift toward conservation. While some of these rituals have been abandoned or are being challenged, they remain a testament to the human desire to express identity, belief, and resilience in the face of extreme odds. The key takeaway? Culture is fluid. What seems strange to us today was, at one point, deeply meaningful and foundational for the societies that practiced it. If you found this video shocking but fascinating, don't forget to like and subscribe, and let me know in the comments what you think about these practices. Are there any other cultural practices you know of that deserve to be on this list? Let me know.